Hello, everybody. This is Davison, and today we are going to be starting work on building a new RPG in Unity. So this is my first time ever really building a game in Unity, and I wanted to kind of do it with everybody so it could be one big learning experience. So there's probably going to be some errors, as in like the ways I'm doing certain things could be done better. But I think over time, once I'm getting a better use or handle with Unity, and the more I dive in with programming, I think the better our code's going to become. So in today's episode, I just want to kind of work on a character creation screen where when the player first starts the game, we either detect if the player has already started the game before and is resuming a save, or if it's the first time. So the very first thing we're going to want to do, just for my sanity, is create a new folder, and I call this scripting. And they're getting rid of Unity script; it's been depreciated. So what we're going to be doing, you see, if you go to create, you can see legacy Unity script, and it's been depreciated. I think they're just moving straight just C# scripting, so that's what we're going to be doing. First, we're going to right click, create. We're going to do create C# script, and we're going to call this, let's just call this our main character script. We'll just call it main character info, because we're going to have a couple of elements with this game. We're going to have attributes that our characters are going to have. So I think that will be good. And with the script, we're going to want to keep it in the scene. We're just going to use this default scene. Let's just make sure everything's set to 0, 0. Yeah, just set to 0, 0, the camera here. And we're going to go ahead and create an empty game object. We're going to right click. We're going to rename. You can also press F2. We'll just call this manager. As in, this is what's going to manage everything. At least for now. We probably will rename this later once we find out what we're going to be doing in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and save the scene, so Control S, and we don't have anything here. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this scenes, and I'm going to go into the folder, and I'm going to name this, we'll just call this creation screen. I'm really bad with these coming up with names. So this is the creation scene. We have an empty game object, and we have our script. We're going to take our script, drag it onto the manager. And now we can see our scripts right here. That's awesome. So what we're going to want to do now is open up Monodevelop. So what we'll do is just double click on our C# script. And it will open up. I have 2 monitors, so I'm just going to bring over the script here. So we're going to have a couple of different things we're going to be wanting to include in this script. And so we'll go ahead and get those in. We want to get the Unity Engine UI, and also the Unity Engine scene management. So we're going to go ahead and say using Unity Engine .ui, capital UI. We're also going to be using Unity Engine .scene management. If we can get it. There we go, yes. We're going to go ahead and keep all this here, the start and update. Actually, we're going to go ahead and remove void update. We don't need this right now. So we'll just highlight it. We'll highlight it and delete. There's going to be 2 things we're going to be using here. We're going to be using when the script first starts. We're also going to be using the GUI. So we're going to go ahead and add that here. So void on GUI takes nothing right now, and we're gonna have 2 brackets, and we'll come back to that. So the first thing we should probably do now is let's declare our variables. The first thing I want to do is just kind of get some information about our character. So we'll go ahead and declare our character. So we'll do public string player name. Maybe we should say, I keep saying character name, but we'll call it player name, because this game, just for right now, it's just going to be one character, and you can't really have multiples right now. maybe we can add that in the future, but for now I just want to focus on having one player of the game. So we'll have that. And for our player, since this is an RPG, we're going to have a few attributes. And I've been thinking about this beforehand, and I want strength, defense, dexterity, sanity, and reflex. So I'll kind of figure out between episodes what, specifically what I'm going to have each one of them say and explain to the player when they're creating it. But for now, let's go ahead and declare it. So they're all going to be integers, which is whole numbers. So we're going to say public int player strength, player defense, player dexterity. There should not be a space here. I hope I'm spelling like dexterity and like defense and strength correctly. I'm really bad at spelling. Player sanity and player. We'll do reflexes for now. Probably I'm gonna say player reflex, but kind of like reflexes. It sounds better. And so that's that. So the first thing we probably want to do is let me think. We have our player name and everything, but we want the input from the player. Before we do that, maybe we should decide if the if this is the first time the game's been run or anything. So I think maybe that would be a good idea. We need to know if the game has been run before, and then if it has been run, we should ask, do you want to continue or do you want to start a new character? So just to track this, we're going to start an integer. With an integer, call the variable first, lowercase, just for my naming convention, first game. And we'll set that to 0. So I'm going to add a comment here. This means the game has not been run before. Therefore, we need to create a new character. And then we're going to go ahead and say, if you are creating a new character, because I guess if it's not the first game, that we need to know. But if it is not the first game, but you still want to create a new character, we should probably know that. So I hope that makes sense. So let's go create a new integer called create, not caps, create new character. We just say this is 0. So what this means is we are creating a new character. So this script just tells us if the game's been run or not before. And this simply just tells us if we are creating a new character or not. It's two different things, but hopefully that makes sense. One last thing before we move on, since we're just going ahead to declare variables, is I want to go ahead and declare attribute points. I think we're going to start off with 20 or so. So we'll create a private integer, and it's going to be called player remaining points. I would write attribute, but I'm really bad at spelling, so I'm going to say 20. Nice. So we should have no errors. We're just declaring variables right now. We'll probably get some saying it's assigned but never used. So we'll go to the start function. I'm going to get rid of let's add some spaces here. So what we should probably do is we have these variables, and we need to we need to save these variables right here, like player name and strength and first game and everything. We need to save those to something, but how are we going to save that? So in Unity, we have something called player preferences. So I'm just going to be using that. This is just as a warning. This can really, cause players to hack your game and everything. So I do not encourage this for online games or anything like that. But since this is going to be like a local single player type of game, this will be fine. So we're going to go ahead and say first game equals player prefs, and then we're going to say dot get int. Now, what do we want to call this key? We're just going to come up with anything right now. So I'm just going to say character creation, because that's what we are in, creation first game. So this string right here between the quotation marks, I just came up with that, and that's going to be the key inside of, I think they use in Windows, since this is Windows-based platform, they use the registry. This is going to be the, I guess it's called the index, or is it the key? I'm going to get that wrong. It's going to be in a YouTube video, probably going to have text over me. I'm going to keep saying it wrong. But yeah, so we just saw this first game, and later on we're going to set this, but by default it's going to default 0 for us. So that's great. Now we're going to do our player name, which we've already declared. We're just going to do player prefs dot, and this is going to be a string. Get string. What are we going to call this? We're going to call this character name. I could have called it player name, but I think it will help me keep track if between player and character and not mix up variables. Now, just because I want to do an indent here, you don't have to. You should probably just do it all in one line. But I like this, since we have the player defined here. Let's go ahead and set these attributes up. So player strength equals, these are all going to be integers. So I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to keep typing it. Player int bracket semicolon, and we'll call this character strength. I'm just making sure character CHAR is strength. Now that indent goes away because of the preference, and so it just likes to clean it up, and I don't like that. Player, our next variable was defense. We'll do player prefs dot get int, and we'll call this character defense. I'll go back and add those indents later. Player dexterity equals this, another integer. We'll call this character dexterity. We have a few more. Player sanity equals this, and that's just, we're going to call this character sanity. Our last one is player reflexes, which player prefs dot get int, and we're calling this character reflexes. Just keep it up. Awesome. So we have all these values. I'm just going to go ahead and a little too much. Just get those over. Put that in. That looks nice. So what we should probably do is we're going to create a conditional statement here. So what we're probably going to do is we're going to create a conditional statement here. So let's check if this is the first time the game has been run. So if first game, which is already 0, set to 0 by default, is 0, then it's going to do this. Else, we're going to want this to do something else. So if this is the first game, what should we do? We should probably say something. We should probably say, just to check out in the in our console, we'll say debug dot log this, and we'll say, we'll just do a string here. This is the first time the game has run. Else, we should say debug.log. The game has run before. So if we test this out right now, we should always get, this is the first time running. So see, this is the first time the game has run. Stop playing, clear, hit the play button again. This is the first time the game has run. So we need to set this value to not be 0. We need to set it to like something like 1. So how can we do that? we're going to say first game is now equal to 1. We're going to save this value. So player, so we're getting to save this layer. So we need to save this value that we just assigned to play first game, which is 1. We need to save it to player prefs. So we're going to go and say player prefs dot set int. See, we're setting a value now, and we're setting this in right here, character creation first game. So we're just going to copy that, and that's awesome. So what has happened? The first time the game's going to run, it's going to be 0. First game is going to be set to 0. We're going to see a debug statement in our log, and it's going to say this is the first time the game has run. But then we're going to we're going to update the first game variable to 1, and that value is going to be saved. And then the next time we start the game, this condition is going to fail. We're going to go to the else statement, and then we're going to see that the game has been run before. So let's test this out. Something is wrong. Oh, so you know what happened is we forgot to put the variable in here. We need to know what we're updating this with. So we're going to add a comma. We're going to say first game. So we are putting the first game variable into this slot. So it won't be 0 anymore, it's going to be 1. That error should go away. Awesome. So first time playing. This is the first time the game has run. Stop. Clear. Play again. The game has run before. Awesome. And just to prove that if we click it again, we should get that same message. The game has run before. Awesome. So we have this. So let's go ahead and think about something else. We should probably say, since we're going to be doing some GUI stuff now, we can't, from what I understand, we can't really work on the GUI stuff, GUI, GUI, in the start function here. So we're going to use that variable we heard, where did we say? We see creating new character. So we'll use that variable so we can do another conditional statement in the GUI. So let's go ahead and say create new character equals to 1. So for our future conditional statement, you'll see where it comes into play. You'll see why this 1 is needed. So in our else statement, we don't really need to worry about too much about this right now. I think probably the best thing we should do is go on to our GUI stuff. So we go on to our own GUI stuff, and the first thing we should probably do is we're going to be using some font stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to set this up. I had to do some researching just to make sure I got this all right. So we're going to say GUI.skin.font, and then we're going to set this to a variable, and we're just going to call this font type. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for our label for labels. So we're going to say GUI.skin. This is going to apply to all labels. Font size equals, and we're going to say it's going to be like 20. I think that's 20 pixels. But one thing we need to do is, since we declared a font here, we need to go up to our values up here, our variables, and do public font, and we're going to call it font type. So if we go here and we click on manager, you're going to see we see font type here, and we're going to be able to set a font. We'll find a font online that we can use that's for free, that we can use for commercial and non-commercial stuff. But for now, we just see that it exists, and we can also see all of our other variables that we've declared. Pair name's empty, and we see 0 for everything else. All right. So let's go back to working on our GUI. So let's do some statements. So if first condition bracket. So it's gonna be a few things. So this condition is gonna be if this is creating new character. So create new character is equal to 1, which we set it from previously. So up here where we said create new character is 1, this is going to trigger our GUI to display whatever we put here because it's going to satisfy this condition. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a layout. So I already did the measurements beforehand, and this is one of the hardest things for me is GUI stuff. So we're going to do begin area. We have a bracket here, parentheses here, and we end that. We're going to say new rect, which stands for rectangle. We're going to say screen dot width divided by 2 minus 50 screen dot height divided by 2 minus 200, which I found to work well, 500, and just for 2000. So what do these variables mean, these values? This is the XY position. So this is saying I want it in the middle of the screen minus 50 pixels. I want it in the half as tall as I want this as half. I want this located half the screen width. I want this located also at half the height. Now these two values is how long, and then how wide this rectangle is going to be. So next up is we're just going to go ahead and set a background color, though. We're just going to do red, I guess. Background color equals color dot red. So this is going to set the background to red. So first thing we should probably do is just see if we can get our player name to display. So we'll do player name equals GUI dot text field. We're going to say new rect. We're going to say we want this located 0, 0, which is XY within that begin area. So it's going to be located at 0x, 0y. We want this to be 250, I guess it's pixels wide and 25 pixels tall. And we're going to throw in our player name variable. And the max length for the player name can be is 35 characters. So what this is saying, we're saying that the variable player name is now going to be equal to whatever the user types in here. And whatever the user types can be set to player name, and it's going to be set here. 35 just means that you can only have 35 characters. So if you have more than 35 characters in your name, you can't use it. So now we need to save player name to our player prefs. So we'll do player prefs dot set string. We're gonna say character. What do we call it? We called it character name, I believe. Character name. And let's not forget to do this player name. So now we're updating player prefs character name with player name. So how can we test this out? We can do debug. We'll do a debug.log. We'll just do player name. So we should see that our player name gets updated here. We have an error. Player prefs unexpected symbol. I'm probably just misspelling it. I'm just gonna. Oh, we're missing a semicolon there. Semicolons will always come back to get you. Let's go back to Unity. This game has run before. Oh, so now we're running into a problem where the game's always run before and we can't trigger the script. So how do we do that? We need to just reset everything. So I don't want to delete all of our player preferences because that's kind of a bad practice. So what we're gonna do, I think the best thing to do is just reset name and everything and all that good stuff. So we just do player prefs dot set ent. We'll say is it character name? We'll set that to we just set that to a string. So we just say 0, or we'll just say player name, and this is actually set string, not an integer. But even before that, we should probably reset our character creation first time player prefs. So do player prefs dot set int character creation. I spelled character wrong. ARZ creation first game. We're gonna set this to 0. So what is this gonna do? We're gonna reset character first game to 0. So which is gonna allow us to run first time again, which means we'll be able to create our character. Let's see how this works. The game has run before. This is expected because this is the first time the script's run. But now we are removing these items. We're just setting them to 0. And we're resetting this to player name. So now this is going to trigger this value on first game equals 0 when we restart. There we go. Let's just kind of pause this. We're getting a few errors, but we'll worry about it later. This is the first time the game has run. This is what we're looking for. Player name, and it's nothing right now. It should just be that. We're getting a few errors with the GUI, but we'll worry about that later. The main thing is that we were able to reset all of this. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're just going to go ahead and get rid of this debug statement, because I do believe that that is working. And we're going to go ahead and continue onwards. We should probably end our area. So what we'll do is we'll go to the end here. Say GUI layout dot end I can't spell end area takes nothing. Let's see if we can actually see our text field. There we go. Yep, right here. So what's the problem? So it says player name. We can type whatever we want in here. We can say Billy Bob. But now we're getting another error. I cannot type in here. Why is this? Let's press pause. The variable font type has not been assigned. Oh, so what we need to do is just go ahead and assign font type. We'll say to Arial. We need to do this twice. Awesome. So now we can type whatever we want in here. So let's just say Davison. If you see up here on the right hand side, our variable has been, player name has been reset to Davison. If we stop this, we'll see that by default it's nothing, but when we start the game, this is as if we were resuming. This has been reset because we have not actually saved Davison yet. So we need to make sure we're saving this. Something's wrong here. I think I spelled character name is the problem. So if we actually spelled character name correctly, and I just copy and paste it from there, we'll actually see that Davison actually works. Make sure we do this twice, because the second time resets everything. So player name, we just say Davison Yawn. See, it's right here. Stop the game. Default 0. Click play. Davison Yawn is the character name. Awesome, so that means the game is remembering that the player had set Davison Yawn. If we click play again, or stop playing, now that script ran, it's going to reset that. So it's going to say player name, we're going to see your GUI. Awesome, this is really great. So what we'll probably want to do now is we'll set a comment here. Now we're going to go ahead and start working on getting our attributes showing, so we can actually start assigning them. So we'll say GUI. We'll just leave the comment there so we can kind of see where everything's going. So do GUI dot label new rect. We'll say it's going to be located at x0, y35, 200 width, and 40 height. We're gonna have it display the words strength. Put colon there, space, because we don't get spaces by default. And we're gonna show our variable here called player strength. And now we probably are gonna want a slider with this, right? You are correct. So let's go ahead and set our slider here, because we'll have our player strength and it's going to show a number, but we want players to be able to, say how many attribute points they want to assign to strength. So to do that, we're just going to use a slider. But the problem with sliders is that those numbers are usually floated and they're not whole integers. So we have to use a special math function to round it to an integer. So we'll say player strength, which is what we are working on, is going to equal to math f dot round to integer. Now we put in our statement here, GUI dot horizontal slider, which is going to be a new rectangle. No surprise, 0x. We're going to have this at 65y, 250 wide, 35 height, and that we're going to pass the variable player strength from a scale of 0 to 10, and then end that. Awesome. Now we need to save this to player press, this integer value, so we'll do player press dot set ent. So let's make sure we spell this correctly. Character strength, comma, not colon, comma, player strength. So let's check this out. We'll do a debug statement here. We'll do debug.log. Simply we'll do player strength, y strength. Now we should see our player strength updating when we get to the second screen. So there we go, strength, we're at 0. We keep seeing 0 down here in the console, but as soon as we start changing this, we're seeing this updating. And we also see here player strength has been set to 3. Now, similar to player name, when we click play, player strength is going to default to 3. But if we restart the game, it's going to already be set to 3, and we want this to set this to 0 because we are creating a new character here. So what we have to do is we want to go back up here to our where we're deleting everything. We'll do player press dot set ent character strength and set 0, end that statement. Now we should see that it will always be set to 0 if done correctly. So 0, set this to 7, it's updated to 7. 7 here, next time we click it, it should be 0. Awesome, this is 0. So this is going to be a similar problem with our defense, dexterity, sanity, and reflex. So let's just go ahead and while we're here, go ahead and do this where we're resetting everything to 0 on the second time the player clicks play. So always copy here. We have strength, then we have defense, dexterity, sanity, and reflexes. These are all going to be set to 0. So this is awesome. We're getting a lot done here. So the next thing we want to do here is we want to do the same thing with our labels and our integers, our labels and our sliders for all of the other values. So we'll just kind of copy this. We'll put a space between 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of them. And now we just need to update everything. So we go from player strength to player defense. We just copy this around and everything. Character, defense. So we're just updating everything to be the correct variable that we're working on. So player defense is now player dexterity. Replace this with player dexterity, player dexterity. You can see I missed player defense down here. And this is going to be dexterity, character dexterity, that value. Next up is player sanity. Copy this. Copy that. Maybe paste it and say copy. And then this is character sanity. And last one's reflexes. So player reflexes. Or say player reflexes and player reflexes. So just took me a while to figure out exactly where I wanted to lay out everything. So I think we're actually missing something. If you notice, we are missing our labels. So we'll go ahead and get the labels in here. We're going to add some spacing here. Okay, that's awesome. Just make sure everything is. I have to make sure this looks good because it will also bother me. So strength. This is now defense. This is dexterity, sanity, and reflexes. And again, this label that I copied from here is just showing us the text. So we go from strength. Now we want to say defense. What is it going to be? We want to say dexterity. We want to say sanity. And we want to say reflex. So now if we save this, we should be able to take a look at Unity. We should have no errors. Click play. This is going to reset everything because we've already played the game before. Click play again. Now we have everything. Everything's on top of each other. This is a big problem. So what I did beforehand was I kind of figured out the spacing for everything because really it's really a pain to figure out spacing. You just have to play around with everything. So I had already figured out that for player strength, I wanted this to be here, but now for defense, I want this to be at 0.80. It's just going to be the Y that's changing really, and this is going to be at 110. Next up, we have the dexterity. I had determined I wanted this at 125. That this needs to be at 155. And then I determined that this needs to be at 170 for sanity. I determined that the slider needs to be at 200. And last but not least, I determined that reflexes needed to be at 215. And the slider needed to be at 245. So let's go ahead and check this out. So if we click play twice, here we go. Everything's nice and laid out. It's kind of hard to see the text right there, sanity, because of the background, but we'll worry about that later. So just make sure everything's working. Is it working? Strength's going to be set to 5, 10, 3, 7, and just random values aren't set. These are all different values. But one thing you'll notice is that these all add up more than 20, and we had already determined that we just want to allow 20 attribute points to be used. So we'll figure it out in a second. But you can see right here, all these values have been set. If we stop and click play, we'll see all these values are again showing up. But if we click again, they're all going to be set to 0 because they've been reset. This is exactly what we wanted. So let's go back to our script here, and we need to discuss this problem that we're having with remaining points. So the only really good way that I figure out how to do this is we need to keep track of where we are, how many points are being used. And so the only really good way I thought about doing this was we have 20 points. If you use 10 here and you use 10 here, it's 20. But we need to update that value, so we need to have a label that shows us how many points are left. And when you add, say, like a point here, that'll be plus sanity will be 1, but our points left over are going to be 19. So the very first thing I think we should probably do is we should set up some labels with our remaining points. So we'll do that down here, add some spaces. So we'll say GUI label new rectangle, nothing surprising at all. It's going to be at 0x y300. It's going to be 600 wide and 100 tall. And we're going to say player remaining points plus a string attribute a TTRIBUTE points remain. So this is just going to say how many points remain. And then let's go ahead and say, let's do some math checking. So if, it's another conditional. Go ahead and get our brackets out of the way. So if the player remaining points is equal to 0, which means there's no points left, we're going to say, we're going to go ahead and do a few things. We're gonna check to see if a button has been clicked. So we're gonna add a button, but it's gonna be an if statement just to see if the condition of it being clicked has been met. So if GUI.button, and this is gonna be a new rectangle, everybody who saw that coming. We have an extra bracket. We're gonna say it's at 0x y400. 150 width, 150 height. We want to say, actually we didn't have an extra one. We needed an extra one. We're just gonna say like begin game. What about like begin adventure actually? ADVENTUR, begin adventure. I think that sounds better for an RPG. So this is checking to see if the button's been pressed, and if it has been pressed, we need to do something. So we'll get rid of that bracket because we need to add a bracket here. This is a conditional statement. So if this has been met, we're going to say scene manager dot load scene, and this is going to be some scene we haven't created yet. Just because I know what I want to name it, I'm going to say game world 000. So what this is saying, if this button has been clicked, this is begin adventure. We're going to load the scene game world 000, and we're going to exit this scene. But this is only true if the button's clicked and the remaining points are equal to 0. But now we need to see what happens if the points aren't 0. So else if, we'll get our brackets set up. So another condition statement. We want to see if player remaining points is less than 0. This means that we have used more points than we have available. So we'll say GUI.button, and we'll say new rectangle. It's going to be located at 0x 400 y width 300 height 30. We'll have the text. What kind of error message do we want? We'll say please sign only 20 attribute points. And else, so this last statement just tells us, we're not less than 0 and we're also not 0, so we haven't spent enough. So we'll do GUI button new rectangle. This is going to be at 0, 400, 300 width, 30 height as well, because the other button above it's not going to show. So it doesn't matter if this occupies the same space. We'll say please assign attribute points. Exclamation point, actually, we'll do that. So this looks nice. So if we go to our scene now, we have an error. We have an unexpected if. Where is this at? What's wrong with this? Oh, we're missing a semicolon here. Semicolons are really important, everybody. So we go back to our script here, clear all errors. We're going to see if these conditions work. We have 20 points remain. This is not being updated. But we'll fix this in a second. But we can see now we have 20. It thinks we only have 20 points left, and we need to assign points. So why is this not working? You might be asking. Well, we need to do the math. We haven't done the math that calculates the attribute points. To do that though, we're gonna want to go up here, and I want to keep track of what the player strength numbers were before they were updated. So say if you set it to 2 and then you set it to 3, I need to know what the last number was. So that way we can do some math to see if there's been addition or subtraction, and that way we can figure out how many points are really remaining. So we'll do set this to public. We'll probably want to set this to private later. But for now, public int, and we'll just copy all of these variable names here. But we're just going to attach the word old to all of them. So I'll just copy this, add old to everything, make sure I'm not missing that comma. Old, and old. So now, let's go ahead and come down to our GUI, and we need to do some stuff. So underneath our label, before this is updated, before the player does anything, we want to check for this. So if this is a conditional statement, if player strength is not equal to player strength old, this is going to do something. So by default, player strength is going to be 0, and player strength old is going to be 0. So this is not going to be called. So if this is true, then we need to do another statement. If player strength old is less than or equal to player strength, let me find this. Then we need to call something. So this is just making sure this is not updated every time the script, because this runs every frame. GUI does. So this is just making sure that this is only called if this value changed, and it's only changed once. So if player strength old is less than player strength, then that means that we need to remove some attribute points. So player remaining points is going to equal player remaining points minus the sum of player strength minus player strength old. Now we're going to set player strength old to player strength. So now, so what this is saying, if the player strength, so like the previous value, is less than the new strength, that means that we went from say 1 strength to 2 strength. So we need to remove those 2 extra points. But now we're updating player strength to 2. So player strength, which is current 2, is going to be equal to 2. So this strip's not going to be called here. So let's check this out. I'm just checking the time of the recording. Got it reset. So player strength, if we go up to 1, we see we're going that way. If we go backwards, we're not getting our points back. But if we go further, we're losing points. And now we can see that this works. Player assign, please. It says apply or assign only 20 points. We need to fix that spelling mistake. But before we do that, let's just go ahead and assign our other statement. So else, if the player's strength old is greater than or equal to player strength, this is going to do something. What is it going to do, you're going to ask? It's going to add. It's going to add back those points that we used. So player remaining points is going to equal player remaining points plus the sum of player strength old minus player strength. And that, have these two, and that's awesome. Get rid of that extra space, and player strength is now complete. So we should see, we have to run this twice. Oh, something's wrong. We have an unexpected symbol somewhere. Okay. Where's the unexpected symbol? Else if, oh, we didn't put our end parentheses. So clear. So click play twice, because we gotta reset the game. We'll see player strength when we go this way, it goes to 5, but now we're getting our points back. But why is it going like this so many times? It's because the script's being called every second, and we have a mistake in our code. Player strength. Oh yes, we didn't update this. So we need to say player strength old is now equal to player strength. So now the old value is being updated with the new value that we've inputted. And if we run this twice, we will see 15.6 go the other way, we get our points back. Something's being wrong. Again, this is why it's so great to talk this through when you're doing this. Always talk through, always. Is that the problem? So say we set this to here, 10. Oh, so you need to see what the problem is. We were having times when both statements were being met. So we're saying, so sometimes the equal then stuff would be pulling. See, what's happening is we're moving this too fast. So I think what we're wanting to do here is this works if you just click. This is gonna have to be something that I dive on, that I ponder about between videos. But if we click, say here, we get 8. We click back, we get 20. If we go like here to 7, we get to 7. And that should move to 20. If we go back here, we get 20. But if we move this too fast, we're moving this faster than the script's being run. So sometimes our update here is not being called fast enough. And so the script's just being run too fast. Ponder about how to fix this in the future, but you know, if you just go slowly enough, you just click, it works fine. So with that error aside, we're going to want to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to do this for every single one of these. So we just want to update all of this stuff here, but we didn't need that label actually. This goes after the label. So now we're working on player defense. So player defense old, 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 player defense. You can see it's a lot of pasting. Player defense old is going to be equal to player defense. Now we can copy this. We have to do this 3 more times. Go underneath our GUI label for dexterity. Dexterity old. Dexterity old. Dexterity old. Dexterity old. This does get repetitive, but you know, that's how programming is. Defense be old. Defense. Dexterity old. Dexterity old. Awesome. Copy this. I think we missed something. Yep. No, we didn't. Now we're on sanity, which, if this is driving me insane too. So player sanity. So we're on sanity now. Player sanity old. Player sanity old. So player sanity old. Player sanity old. Player sanity old. I'm losing my sanity. We'll just replace this with player sanity. Player sanity old. minus planar planar player sanity old, player sanity. Last one we want to do here is our player reflexes. Player reflexes old. Player reflexes old. Player reflexes old. Player reflexes old. That coding is a lot of repetition, and this is where problems can happen, bugs, because you miss something. Okay, so I think what we should do is run the script. No errors. This is a good sign. Okay, so we go to reflexes. That's awesome, that works. Sanity seems to work. Dexterity seems to work. Defense seems to work. Strength seems to work. So if we set the strength to 4, 16, dexterity 1, 15, 13 because it's 2, 1, 10. So math's going right. So if we set exactly 20, we get our play adventure button. But if we have too much, we see please assign only 20 attribute points. So we can get that play button. Now we get an error because we do not have game world defined in our build settings yet. But this would load us into the next world. So everything seems to be working. We got to fix this thing right here. Or if you move this too many times, now we probably are not going to be able to get back to 20. You know what's weird is it only does it for strength. But yeah, I'm going to have to mess around with that because there's something wrong with that. But anyways, last thing I want to do is kind of just setting a background here. So I don't like looking at this background, it's kind of ugly. So I'm just clicked at the reset. So what we want to do is here's our camera, 0, 0. I'm just going to go ahead and right click, create 3D object, and we're just going to say a plane. That's awesome. We're going to rotate the plane negative 90 degrees and move it in front of our camera. Now it's a white screen, so the camera is facing our camera here is facing this white screen, but it's not like this white. So I'm going to go to project in our assets folder and create a new folder, and it's going to say we'll call this style, I suppose, for now. In our style, we're going to create a material, and we'll just call this gray material. And on our material here, we're just going to change the color here. So just double click on this little color wheel, and we're just going to say my favorite color is 1F, 1F, 1F. It's kind of a gray color, and that's our material. So now we go to our plane here and assign this to the material. Just drag it onto plane, and now this is gray. I don't know why plane's attached to manager, so we're just gonna unattach it here and kind of put it right there. It looks nice. We have the directional light still there, so there's gonna be a little bit of lighting up here at the top. We don't have to worry about that right now. If we click play now, we have this gray backdrop, and we are able to change our values for our attribute points. We randomly got 20 there, and we can begin our adventure. We had to fix a spelling mistake here, so fix that spelling mistake real quick. Please assign only 20 attribute points. I had to click the button. This is going to reset everything. And now we can type in our player name, say Davison, Yawn. We'll set 6, 4, 3, 2, and 5. We'll say play adventure. It won't work. But if we check out our inspector for our manager, we're going to see now all these values are correct. 6, 4, 3, 2, and 5. Old is going to be set to 0 because we never set those values, and that's only temporary variables. So in the next time, we're going to see if I can figure out the bug that's happening with their strength. So if you like this tutorial, please let me know. There's probably a lot of ways that this code could be enhanced. There's a lot of spacing I'm going to remove between episodes. It's just for my sanity to kind of keep things separated, but I'm going to remove them. I'm probably going to keep a GitHub of all of this tutorial, so you can actually copy this code for yourself. But I really do hope you all enjoyed this, and it was very informative. Keep a lookout on the next video, and hope you all have a great day.